Hello, you lovely people. This is me, the Bombay Chef Varun Inamdar, and welcome to Get Curried. Well, today's recipe is an absolutely stunner of a recipe. You can have this for breakfast, lunch, evening snacks, dinner, or late night supper. The name of the recipe? Chicken Kathi Roll. Let's begin. I'm going to divide this recipe into 4 components. The first one is getting the bread right, for which we need to make the dough. The second one is shaping it right, baking it right so that you can keep it in the refrigerator and put it to use whenever you wish to make a kathi roll. The third component is making the kathi mix, which literally and technically is known as the chicken Khurchan. And the fourth component is going to be the assembly. Let's begin with the first component, that is getting the dough right, for which I'm going to use a combination of refined flour and whole wheat flour. Let's begin. Let's begin with refined flour. And along with this, whole wheat flour, a touch of salt and water to knead the dough. Now generally I use somewhere around 25 to 30% of hydration. What I mean is, for every 100 grams of flour, in goes 30 ml of water. Once the dough comes together like so, move the bowl aside and transfer this on the workbench and add in a little bit of oil. We literally need to work on the dough for at least 8 to 10 minutes so that the dough becomes nice, elastic, and the gluten formation of the whole wheat and refined flour is just perfect. What we eventually need is a dough which is soft and pliable. We bring the dough together like so, transfer it in the same bowl, cover this with a cloth and keep this aside. Let's move on to the second component, that is making the chicken Khurchan. Let's do that. Let's turn the flame on and add in regular vegetable oil. Once the oil heats up, we add in cumin seeds. Once they begin to crackle, roughly cut onions. Once these turn roughly translucent, I'm going to add in strips of chicken boneless breast. Let's stir fry these two on high flame, and while the chicken is getting done, we'll also add in strips of capsicum. Time to add in some spices, beginning with garam masala powder, followed by red chili powder, a little bit of sugar to just balance the flavor of all the ingredients, not to make anything sweet in this case. Along with this, juice of half a lemon. And last but not the least, salt as required. Till the chicken, capsicum, onions are all cooked, yet they have retained that little bite. The chicken, of course, needs to be well done. With this, off goes the flame and our chicken Khurchan is done and ready. Let's transfer this in a bowl. This, of course, is the chicken Khurchan, which in this recipe is going to work like the stuffing or the filling for the roll. Let's move on to the third component, that is bringing the dough back in action, transferring that on the work table, and making some chapatis or some flatbreads. Now this is literally baking bread. I'm going to use a skillet or a tawa for something like this. But before that, we're going to divide this dough into roughly 6 portions like so. We take one roll at a time, literally like a large lemon. And we literally start making Indian flatbreads like so. We dab this in some whole wheat flour, press this against the table like so, and roll this into a thin chapati. Well, if you're not comfortable and cannot make perfect rounds, it's absolutely fine, because eventually when this gets converted into a kathi roll, it's all going to get masked. So do not worry. Well, here you have these little round flatbreads. We pick this on our palm like so, remove the excess flour and slap this onto the griddle like so. Once bubbles start rising on top, we give this a flip and add in a little bit of oil. Well, that way the flatbread literally gets excited and starts getting roasted or baked. At this point in time also, you will notice a few bubbles here and there. Press these against the skillet like so. Now, at this stage, I'm actually turning the flame off because I need to show you something very categoric at this stage. In case you're looking at making the kathi rolls at a later stage, at this stage, you will remove the flatbread and keep it to cool on your workbench or on a plate. You stack this up later once all of this is cooled. You wrap this in a cling foil or a cling wrap, transfer this in an airtight container and keep it refrigerated till further use. In case you feel like keeping this longer, you could also transfer this in the deep freezer and pull this out whenever you want to make fresh kathi rolls. So these are not completely baked. Whenever you feel like pulling this out of the refrigerator or the deep freezer, you peel this literally. Now there is a little bit of oil at the surface and that will prevent it from sticking into the stack. Now imagine peeling this from the stack and transferring this on the tawa or the griddle. Now the process begins for the finishing of the kathi roll. At this stage, a little more of the oil. We turn the flame on and continue roasting this or baking this. We flip this twice over like so, and with this, your flatbread or your kathi bread is done and ready. Let me make a few more. Let's move on to the fourth component, and that is assembling the chicken kathi roll. Now ideally what you would have done is taken one flatbread, added whatever mixture and things like that, and then individually would have rolled them. What I'm showing you today is how a kathi roll expert would make a lot together at one point in time and then start rolling them individually. Let's see how. You keep the flatbreads overlapping each other, then take generous amount of the chicken mixture or the Khurchan mix and place it like so. Let's add in some fresh onions like so. And finally, a little more juice of lemon. Now what I have done is I've made 3 overlapping kathi rolls. The idea here is to pull the first one towards yourself and start rolling it like so. Now this way you can actually make hundreds of kathi rolls without wasting any time, and keep this aside like so. With this, ladies and gentlemen, chicken kathi rolls done and ready. Like I asked you to make the flatbreads and keep them refrigerated and make them in literally no time, you can also refrigerate the Khurchan mix and assemble it in literally no time. This is me, the Bombay chef, Varun Inamdar, signing off. Bye for now.